Welcome to the September 20th edition of the SIG CLI bi-weekly meeting. I'm Sean Sullivan, I'm your host. I'll get directly into the announcements. So the first announcement is on the upcoming 129 release dates. So we have, as Maciej had just mentioned offline, the KEP deadline is coming up very soon, within about 2 weeks. It will be Thursday, October 5th. I have on the notes October 6th. Let me put that back one day. And for the code freeze, about actually less than 4 weeks later, we'll have the code freeze on Tuesday, October 31st, actually Wednesday, November 1st, for later time zones. And so those are the release dates for 129. Those are coming up pretty quick. The steering election, the voting ends next Tuesday, September 26th. So make sure that your vote is in. I have already voted. Just a quick reminder that the TL for SIG CLI Maciej is running. Just to raise awareness and not pushing any agenda, just so you all know, for those that can vote, Maciej is available as a vote, a possibility. So the next section is the new member greeting. So for those who have not been to a SIG CLI meeting, or have not met your SIG CLI colleagues, or it has been a long time, if you would like to introduce yourself, this is your opportunity. And if you don't want to, that's fine as well. Would anybody like to introduce themselves?
Hi, this is Ankriti. I'm not sure if you're able to hear me, but hi. Yeah, I have recently started looking into some of the CLI, conversations, and this is my first meeting attending the bi-weekly meetings, basically. And I have I'm looking into one of the issue, and I'll probably just continue on that and looking forward to working on more issues. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Welcome. Good to meet you. I saw you had posted on the SIG CLI Slack channel, so it's good to see you in person.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm also
Hello.
new to SIG CLI meeting. This is my first time I'm attending this meeting. I have been looking for an issue which I have come to discuss about that if that issue that will be triage accepted or not. I was suggested to present and ask about that.
Welcome. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I think it, just as a personal aside, I think that the Slack channel sometimes doesn't, we may not get to the entries as soon as we should, and it's a really good idea to show up in person to the meetings, to make the personal connection if it's possible. Is there anyone else who'd like to introduce themselves?
Yes, hello, I am Akshat. So I'm also new to this channel. I'm also looking forward to work on something.
Oh, okay,
SIG CLI
great.
interests me, so I'm still finding some issue to work on.
Excellent. So we'll be talking about some of the issues in our open discussion. Maybe that will help.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves? Okay, so why don't we quickly go over current KEP status. I put status in for the transition to the WebSockets from Speedy, where it stands. one of the two PRs has been merged, and the second PR is pretty mature. It has 186 comments, and there's some meetings with the reviewer Jordan and Antonio later on today. There's a really good chance that this will land in alpha for 129 before the code freeze deadline. And then after that, we will look at transitioning kubectl port forward to WebSockets from speeding. So is there anyone who has updates? I think we're still working on pruning. I don't know if Justin's here or anyone else. I'll take that item off if there's no one to address that. Okay, why don't we move to the open discussion? Well, actually, before we do, is there any announcements that anyone else would like to make to the group? If not, we could move on to Brian. Would you like to take the floor, Brian?
Sure. Yeah. So this is an item that I added to the agenda. So basically, in the last bug scrub, we had this come up, and it was an ask for an additional flag to be added to kubectl autoscale and to handle memory. There's already one for CPU percent. And I know our standard, I guess our standard answer to adding, our default answer, I guess, for adding new flags is that we don't want to add new flags because a lot of things, almost everything can be done declaratively through kubectl apply. And so I kind of gave that answer here. The person who raised the issue kind of came back and raised a good point and said, okay, yeah, I understand that. But if the answer is that we should do things declaratively, should we consider deprecating this command? And I guess I think it's a good point that there's some commands that are kind of super specific, like this one, I think, where it kind of makes sense for it to have flags versus other commands that are more general, like create and run, that can get overwhelmed by new flags. And so I guess I answered it in the bug scrub, and then I sort of changed my mind after the conversation and the issue, and I just wanted to get other people's thoughts on this.
So in general, yes, the default answer for new flags was no. But then there was always an asterisk which said we will just look at every single case separately. Just like you said, create and more generic commands. Adding flags for those cases is rather cumbersome. For kubectl run, specifically, since we went through the exercise of cleaning it up, that's a reason why I'm very hesitant on adding additional flags there. But I do agree that for this particular case, adding the memory percentage seems like a reasonable addition, given that we already have the CPU percent flag there. I'm just looking at the help. So yeah, for this particular case, I think I would be okay with just adding that particular flag, because it will make the functionality of the command more thorough. Definitely, we're not looking into deprecating all the other commands just before the apply, or especially the new version of the apply. So I'm not envisioning that anywhere in the near future. So yeah, I would just, whoever opens the PR, just make sure that the memory percent would be somewhat similar to the CPU percent does, and then think that's a reasonable assumption that you just stated.
Yeah, I think as far as deprecating commands, that that's a multi-release process, but even then, there's always going to be somebody who's going to want that command, who has it in one of their scripts somewhere. So practically speaking, there is no deprecating commands that are in there. But you are, I mean, as Maciej said, you did hit it on the head. We suggest apply with the declarative approach. The imperative approach is problematic. It's not really ready for prime time and production use, except in extreme circumstances. And so, this is kind of a vice, but I understand why you would, mention this to the team.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. And I guess this could have been, I could have answered this way in the book scrub. It was one of those situations where I defaulted to the default answer, but then I thought, okay, it's not really that cut and dry between, deciding. It's not just, I guess it's sort of like an art to decide when we should add a new flag versus not, and it's not something that there's just a hard and fast rule that says we always deny new flags or we accept new flags in these particular situations. And I guess I just wanted to kind of open that up for thoughts on, what is the criteria for when we accept new flags. And I guess it's just, will the command be useful? Well, will the command cease to be useful if the flag isn't included? And I guess the person who opened this issue sort of convinced me after the fact that, yeah, I mean, the command is seriously missing a key piece of functionality if we don't have this flag for memory. So anyway, yeah. So I guess as far as this issue goes, I'll go back and circle back with the person who opened the issue and triage accept it, and then we can deal with any comments or whatever in the PR. So thanks, everyone.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Common topic. Okay, so shall we move, Brian, are we ready to move to the next item?
Yep.
Okay, so Sriram, are you available to take over?
Yep. Hey, yeah, I just joined the call a couple of minutes back. I had this release team call at the same time. So basically, this issue was closed. Like there was an issue open for the adding the ignore not found flag for kubectl patch, and it had been closed after it had been stale for some time. And yeah, I was talking with Marley, and they suggested that I add more test cases, and like they went through the code. So I wanted to know what I can do next.
So this seems very topical with our previous discussion. So I'm presenting the PR. So does this particular PR align with our previous discussion of adding a flag if the command doesn't really work well without it?
So I quickly looked at both the issue and the PR. The issue is one of those which claims, oh, the commands delete, stop, get, etc. have ignore not found, but patch does not. But if you look at the delete, stop, and get commands, each of those command is a generic command which allows you to work on multiple resources at any single point in time. You can invoke a delete either using a file or something along the lines where you will be working with multiple. For patch operations, I would be very cautious when invoking patch against multiple resources, and I would target patch as a per single. For multiple, I'll probably prefer using apply or something more sophisticated for managing the resources. Usually patch will be targeted at a one resource from my personal experience. So for those cases, the ignore not found is not necessarily something that I would find useful or would give additional benefit of having there. Because if you are invoking multiple patches, I'm pretty sure that you would like to be notified of missing resources. Apply can do that as well, but I would probably prefer using apply over patch over multiple resources. So in this particular case, I would probably say that we would not want to see that new flag being added to the patch command. It is potentially hiding problems from users. And I'm not sure if the argument of aligning with other commands is sufficient enough to have that flag being added. And looking at the original issue, I don't see the issue being sufficiently popular. For one, it got closed. For second, I remember that at some point in time, we also agreed that if there will be a sufficient support from the community for a particular flag, meaning that there will be multiple, and we've never claimed a particular number, but multiple upvotes for a particular issue, that would be an important signal for us to accept or expand the functionality. But for this particular issue, I only see the author and maybe one or two other people who wanted this added, which again isn't something that I would consider as a valuable addition for the patch command. I'm open to discussion. I'm happy to hear from what other things. But at this point in time, I think I'm rather reluctant to accept this particular PR.
Okay, so it sounds, as Machi just said, we at the present time are not going to accept the extra flag and the PR. We appreciate the effort, and thanks for bringing this to the SIG. I think this is a great forum to get high bandwidth discussions completed in a short amount of time. And so it didn't work out this time, but thanks for bringing that, and we'd love to have you contribute elsewhere. I hope this doesn't discourage you from future contributions.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the issue, the motivation for working on the issue was that I was using kubectl patch in a sort of automated manner, and I thought it would be helpful if the ignore not found flag was there. But now, after hearing what Mache said, I am reconsidering my own implementation of the feature. Yeah, thank you.
So were you using it with multiple? As Mache said, it sounds pretty unusual to use a patch against multiple resources, since a patch is generally for one specific resource. Were you using it against multiple resources?
No, I was not using it against multiple resources, but just to handle the case where currently we have to handle the case where the deployment is not found, like deployment or whatever resource we are trying to update is not found. So if ignore not found flag was there, we could have just like bypassed that. Yeah, but apply kubectl apply makes more sense.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so there is one more item introduced by Varsha, and this is an item. Is it okay, Sriram, to move on to the next item?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the last item is actually something that we had talked about several weeks ago, and Mache wasn't here, so I was really interested to hear what Mache's take on it is. We had just to recap. So we were talking about how the kubectl apply is unable to be moved from default client side to default server side. And so we're actually missing out on quite a bit of the investment we made in server side apply. And so one of the ways forward would be to start the process of adding an extra command called kubectl actuate. And so in our previous discussion, we had Antoine was here, Justin Santa Barbara was here, Eddie was here. There was several other people here who had background in server-side apply. And so, yeah, that's the motivation was to try to get better usage for our server-side apply investment. And if I were to make some ballpark figure, I'd say that probably 99% of kubectl apply now is still client-side apply, even though it requires us to specifically put an extra flag. And so the idea was, should we start the process through a plugin or even through an alpha command to create this actuate command, which would be server side by default. And I think that there was discussions about also including what else we've learned from apply to, make sure that it has as default the new pruning, and anything else to be kind of a best in class apply. So first, I'd like to, before answering the question, to open this discussion up again. Like I said, especially to get Mache's feedback, since I think he wasn't there for that meeting.
I'll be honest, I did not get the chance to watch the recording.
Yeah.
I went through the notes, and as for now, I generally support that kind of idea. The only thing that I have currently that is bugging my head a little bit is the wording, because we've been using apply so widely. I was wondering if we could pick a better word, but that's like probably just the least of the problems that we have. On the other hand, yes, naming is hard, always has been hard. And that's probably one of the challenges, the actual challenges that we have. But in general, I definitely agree that if there are sufficient reasons for us to move forward with a new command where all the issues that we struggle with in the current apply will be addressed, where we will be switching to server side, that's definitely a good direction. Especially that we have a lot of time, there's no rush, and we can keep the command a little bit longer as an alpha or beta to test out all the things that we know that are wrong with the current apply. And and try to address all the concerns that users might have before finally launching this as a GA. Also, it'll be nice to see our slides, where we say the differences between and I'm missing a word, where we're comparing the different kinds of commands. I'm missing a word. It would be nice to see some additional commands next to the reply.
So you think that whatever we call this, actuate or whatever, you think that there should be, we should even consider more commands. Did I understand that correctly?
Maybe not necessarily more commands. I would just definitely just I would reconsider the actuate name. I might be wrong. I'm not a native English speaker, so it sounds a little bit silly for now. But I'm, like I said, it's probably a minor thing, but I definitely support the direction. I still have that recording on my to-do list to see. I just need to find the right time to watch it and actually learn about all the use cases that folks were talking about and the problems that there are.
Okay, thanks for your feedback, and thanks for bringing this up, Varsha. So my take is so far that everybody, all the leadership seems to be behind this. And of course, there's going to be plenty of ideas on approach and philosophy and wording, et cetera. Of course, something this major would probably require a KEP. And so the next steps would be that, and maybe even a kind of proof of concept plugin that would give people a concrete feel for how this would work and what it would look like and what it's going to include. So just design work with the KEP, actually, that would be the important thing to finish, but some type of proof of concept with a plugin might inform that design process, since it would be significantly more concrete. And I think that when it comes to design and just wording, you can get into some bike shedding situations where there's a lot of talk, but not much gets done. And that's why I think that along with a KEP, maybe a proof of concept plugin would be useful. So we mentioned that the KEP deadline is almost a little bit more than 2 weeks away. To be honest, I don't see this I'm not sure that anybody is working on this at the time. We brought it up, but we actually don't have anybody to work on this, at least from where I'm at. Yeah, so whether or not there would be a KEP finished within 2 weeks seems really doubtful to me for 129.
I would probably advise start working on the KEP, whoever is interested in it. Whether the KEP lands or merges for 129 or for 130, it doesn't matter.
No, it's going to be a long time.
I wouldn't try to rush it in just to make it for 129. But like Sean said, try to write KEP with all the ideas that are running around from all the discussions that happened over a month ago. Write it down as a sketch for the future doc. Start putting together a a proof of concept, which will again help to drive the shape of the document. And also, the sooner it'll be open for wider comments from folks, we can probably send it out to both the SIG CLI mailing list, maybe even the main Kubernetes developers, then just try to gather whatever feedback is possible without trying to push it in, but rather focus on gathering all the use cases and trying to come up with something that we will be happy with supporting in the long term.
Yeah, if it's not going into 129, it's not a hurry. I can start by creating a rough sketch of a KEP and get back to you all with more thoughts on this. But thank you so much for the inputs.
So there are quite a few resources to understand, to dig deeper into server-side apply. The person I usually turn to is Antoine Police whenever there are questions and bug fixes. In fact, there have been some server-side apply bug fixes even recently and some of those get very subtle and very complicated. And so it'll be, if you need to dig deeper into the server-side apply, and especially migration, so when we migrate from an object that's been applied by client-side apply, where it has the last applied configuration annotation storing metadata for what had been applied previously, and then we go to server-side apply where we have the fields and the field managers. That process can be, it's still being fleshed out and is still, after years is still being worked on. And so you may want to, once you're going to get into that particular area, you'll probably want to talk to Antoine and to others who have expertise in this. But yeah, thank you for bringing this topic up.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'll look into this more and then follow up with the questions which I have.
Okay,
this
great.
has been a good start. Thanks.
Okay, we don't have anything else on the agenda. I think that we're complete with the last item. Does anybody else have any parting words before we close?
Hello.
Okay.
Actually,
Yep. Go ahead, Amit. Okay, so Amit is asking about triaging an issue. Why don't I just, usually these are with the bug scrub, but why don't I just put this on the agenda since we do have extra time here. And let me see if I have that. Okay. So maybe quickly we can talk about this particular issue before we end. Whether or not kubectl is an alias for kubectl logs. So I'll quickly give my feedback, which is like nothing stops anybody from aliasing. So I'll let others give feedback on this particular issue. Does anybody have any feelings on whether or not we should add an alias for kubectl logs to kubectl log?
I'm looking through the issue and the command. It seems that I don't have any objections, but I would leave it open for a little bit longer and let's see what folks will be saying about the command. In my personal experience, the one mistype that I do more frequently than in logs over log is get logs, honestly. But that doesn't mean that we need to have an alias for get logs. So yeah, that's usually what I'm looking at whenever adding extra. The differences between git log and kubectl logs is that git log is specifically for looking at the log of your current repository, whereas kubectl logs is specifically targeted at multiple logs. That's why the S at the end of the logs. But I wouldn't rule it out that we can't add the alias. Although usually the aliases that we've been adding in the past were a shorthand for the full command. I'm not sure if log would be done much of a save from logs.
So for the time being, I'm going to add triage accepted just to keep it on our radar. But as Machi said, I guess we could do this in the bug scrub, I think, which is probably the more appropriate forum. But
I wouldn't add it.
You wouldn't? Okay.
Except, yeah, because that means that we will do it.
We will. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas if we don't, that will send the signal that we're just awaiting more information, more use cases where this is useful. I think there's a triage that needs information or something like that, which might be a little bit more appropriate, but then we would have to add the information. We would have to add explicit what kind of information we're looking for.
There's a hand up, Philip.
Yeah, I think there might be one issue with renaming this, because with logs, you can actually target like multiple pods or containers. So then like you are getting really multiple logs and not one log. So that might be an issue.
So logs is more appropriate in those instances.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna sit on this particular issue for now, it sounds like. And it will be addressed in the bug scrub, the next one.
Okay, I'll be there in that.
Okay, great. So I will ask again before bringing the meeting to a close. Is there anything else that you are going to address? Okay, great. It was good to see you, and we will see you in 2 weeks, or actually before that if there's the bug scrub.